Hey everybody, it's the Modern Native. So today we're going to be talking about some firewood tips, and I got a ton of them for you. So, I got my whole log over there. I got this one that I've already sectioned up. And I was going to go through my thought process and everything else. So this was one big tree. This was the deadfall tree that was pinning me down in my survival video. If you haven't seen that, definitely go check that out. But like I said, the best revenge, making it into firewood. So I broke her down into some firewood, got it in log sections, and I brought it over here. It's going to be my later tip, but it's in the first part of it, so I kind of wrote it down backwards. But reduce your trips. When you're doing your firewood and you drop a tree, definitely try to move them closer to the area that you're going to be using it in log sections. I mentioned this before in a short or in a smaller video, I can't remember, but I mentioned in one of my other videos, reduce your trips. Take it in log sections and then break it down closer to where you're going to be using it. Reduces your trips of taking smaller pieces, tons of trips, a bunch of smaller pieces. So this took me 2 trips, and I got 2 log sections to break down. So the next part of this is the sections. So, knotty sections. Everybody knows how much of a pain they are to split them. Don't try. Save it. I use those for the longer burn when I'm not trying to cook, when I'm not trying to get a nice little coal bed, when I just want the fire to last a while. I'll throw these right on there. I leave these little prongs on there so that way when you throw it in the fire, this whole thing will burn. But this catches to make sure that it won't like just kind of smolder. It'll be an actual fire the whole time. So it's kind of like a 2-in-1. It's a stick fire attached to a log. So these are much nicer for the longer burn. And these prongs make it easier to carry. You can get 2 chunks in one hand. If you're dealing with a larger round, not this small, but dealing with a larger round, trying to carry 2, 3, 4 of them is pain. But if they got these sticks on the end of them and you can hold the weight, you can carry 4 rounds that you wouldn't be able to carry before, also reducing your trips. So the next sections, obviously everybody knows, is the nice straight, knotless, really nice split wood. Well, the really nice clean wood, straight wood that's going to split really easily. That's what you get your cooking wood out of, that's what you get your kindling out of. Pretty simple, everybody knows that. So when I'm going down and chopping up the tree, I always look at it and I look at these sections. A lot of times when people aren't planning it, you see them where they've got the knot and then there's this huge chunk on the end, so they can't split none of that. So what I do is when I'm going down, I cut it right on either side of the knot. Either side of the knot, so I get my clean section out of the middle, and you can see it all the way down. Knot, clean section, knot, clean section. So every time I saw a bundle of knots, because on most trees the knots grow in one section, if you can break it down like this, so that way you can get a knot dead center and you don't have to worry about splitting these whole sections. And then, of course, when you get to the end of it, you get this gnarly pieces. And then the spot where you dropped it. I could clean that off and maybe split that one more time, but it makes a nice long night fire log. So then you're left with these nice, easy to split pieces. So it makes it much more efficient when you're breaking down your wood to be able to reduce your effort and get the most out of your firewood. Now, one of my other tips is right here in the middle of this path. This was a softer spot that when it rained and it was really wet, it would sink here. If you tried to walk through, you'd get all muddy. So I'm breaking down firewood. It's going to make a byproduct. It's going to toss chunks of bark everywhere. I'm going to get the sawdust everywhere. So I thought ahead of time, it was like, I might as well use the byproduct that it makes. So instead of trying to collect it in one spot, which is a good idea, doing it in one spot generally, that way you can collect it as you need to. But instead of having to move it twice, I just process the wood here and let all this just break down on this path to make it nice and solid and walkable and dry it out for the wet parts, the wet days. So whenever you can, use your byproduct. Save yourself some effort, drop it where you're going to end up leaving your sawdust and your wood chips anyway, so do it there. I'll even split here as long as I can do it carefully and not gouge into the ground. But this brings me to the next part. After you split this, and you got this all broken down, you plan your wood stacks. Now after a while, being that we're full-time camping, after a while you get used to figuring out, okay, how much wood you use throughout the day, how many pieces you need, and at what point will you be towards your night logs. So whenever I go over, and you guys have seen it if you've been on my live or my videos where you're looking at the fire pit, one of my cooking videos, you can see that next to the fire, I'll stack these big logs underneath. I'll stack all the big logs as the base, and then these logs, once they're split, I stack them on top. Then I'll start using from this side over, so that way throughout the evening I start moving closer to the fire, I start exposing the bottom layer of the larger logs. That way at night, when I'm like, alright, we're done cooking, toss a big log on there. Then use some smaller pieces to kind of feed it, keep it going, keep it warmer while it's getting night out and we're hanging by the fire. And then periodically the next one will pop up. I'll throw that one in there. And then as you pace out your stacks, you can use it in an organized fashion. It makes it more efficient so you actually can save more wood. Because I can throw 2 of these big logs on there towards the end, and that'll hold all the way until the next day, and we'll have a nice little coal bed to make the next fire on. So that way you can conserve. You won't have to overuse wood, you won't have to overuse an area, you won't have to affect the resources in a higher fashion than you are just by being there. You can conserve your firewood, your energy, and have more time to enjoy the greater outdoor woods. Hope you guys enjoyed. It's my firewood tips, nice bundled up in one little video. Ton of other ones out there, just a bunch off the top of my head. Stay tuned for more. Till next time, get out there, be a native, and go beast.